This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale.
Good morning here on this Friday morning, the last Friday in the month of May, and we couldn't be more excited to get our weekend started where the real work begins here at the National Soccer Network. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler and Mr. John Natale, and we are excited that you are here watching us once again this morning. We are live on YouTube, Roku, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms here later today. And so we have an interesting show here today. We have some guests that'll hop on here in a couple of minutes with us. We'll talk about that and here in a moment. And it's a really cool thing. So I'll have them explain it here in a little bit. But before we dive into anything related to guests and things like that, I talked to you guys yesterday about this Target, debacle, and John was like, it's just going to Target. It's, it's just, he just wants to go to Target. Let the kid go to Target, just let him go to Target. I don't disagree with just letting the boy go to Target, but I have another issue that I wanted to talk to you guys about this fine Friday morning. So, we deal with a lot of different things around the country, right? We are now finding out and figuring out kind of what that looks like. And more importantly, not just what it looks like, but how we end up trying to deliver, these games or these broadcasts, right? And we're dealing with teams, we're dealing with our own people, we're dealing with production companies. And I think it's important, after doing this for as long as I have, that just because you say you're a production company doesn't mean you know how to produce. Okay, I think I need to say that out loud, and I need to make sure that's out in the world, because I've talked to a lot of production companies, or quote unquote production companies, and when I say words that are basic, knowledgeable words in the world that we're in, and they don't know what I'm talking about, and then more importantly, when they get to the environment and they don't know how to do things, it just lends me to believe that there's a lot of hobbyists out there, right? There's a lot of people who grab a camera, grab a YOLO box, or grab this or grab that, and they're just doing it because they need to provide a service because these teams don't have resources, right? So, which I completely understand, okay? But they don't know the basics. And so there's this disconnect between me and those out in the field. And then there's this other part of this that is also there, which is, I used to be in this boat. We were a local platform here in Michigan. And what did I not want to have happen? I didn't want to have our platform not get games. I was building a network. And so I wanted it on my game. I wanted it on my platform. No, you're going to have it on my platform. And I would fight, to have it on our platform. Now we're the National Soccer Network, right? And I want all these games on my platform. And that means that when I go to production company here and production company over there, what do they want? Well, they want it on what platform? They want it on their platform. And what is that platform doing to me now? It's competing with me. It's competing with us. Because if they have people going to their game and not going to our game, we're losing views. So it's a conundrum is what it is. And I want to talk to you guys about this one before we bring on our guests and get your take on this, because it's a growing pain for sure. I'm dealing with those who say they can but can't, and I'm dealing with those who do and don't want to budge, right? And they're like, this is it. And we've had a number of situations just in the past week where we are supposed to receive a feed from a production company, but they were just basically like, for lack of better terms, like, screw you. We're going to send it to where we want. We're not even going to give it to you. And I'm curious your guys' take on this.
Did your son try to start a production company at Target? I'm so confused where everything just went.
He's starting a rival company.
Oh, because it started out, my son going to Target and everything, and then it got into production. I'm like, did he start a production company with his buddies? Like,
oh, he did. Oh, he definitely did. I don't know.
I was like, whoa, there was a left. I felt like I was in a NASCAR race coming across turn 4 there to hard left. Holy hell. So the question is, how do we feel about I just competition in your world? Is that what we're looking at here?
I mean, not so much the competition aspect of this, but more, I think, like, because competition is fine. I don't have a problem with competition, and I welcome competition. My issue isn't the competition. My issue is the fact that the companies themselves who are being paid for a service, like I get paid for a service,
yeah,
are losing sight of the fact that if they want to continue to do that service and work with leagues, they're going to have to find a way to fall in order with what the league is requiring of them. Like, I just can't be tomorrow. We do Oakland University broadcasts, right? That's what we do. I just can't tomorrow decide, well, I'm not staying at the ESPN anymore. You know what I mean? I just can't do that. I mean, as much as I want those games on my platform, I just can't do that. So I think it's important that there's an understanding between the leagues and the teams and the network to make sure that they know, hey, this isn't like an option. Like, you just can't like decide to not do this because, you think you're whatever. And to be fair, we're at a point in our growth where, well, I don't want to like cause pain to the production company. If they're not going to fall in line and actually deliver the feeds as we're supposed to get them, then we have to take action. Like, do you think for 1 second that ESPN wouldn't sue me?
No.
They would sue me in a heartbeat.
Well, let me ask you, who are if you don't mind, you don't have to tell me the production company, but what leagues are this coming from specific? Like, who's the biggest offender in this?
Oh, it's every. I mean, there's not it's not a league, like a situation where the league is like, well, I think it's more.
No, I'm not saying that the league is saying it. I'm saying, are these production companies mostly from the league for clubs? Are they mostly from the APSL? Or is it just all over?
It's all of them. I mean, there's not like a specific thing for like this league or that.
So I mean, Nate, if you want to jump in, Nate, please do, because I have a thought now. If you've got something, go ahead.
Go by all means.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I honestly think, JT, it's a simple matter of fact. This is still new to everybody. All these teams, all these productive. First of all, it's soccer. This is brand new to a lot of them. They're used to football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, all the other ones. Soccer, not so much. I know that. I know the production companies I deal with, and soccer is kind of on the bottom of the barrel, unfortunately. But for what you're doing, it's an extra step, so to speak. See, with Oakland that you're contracted by Oakland, but you have to get those games to ESPN Plus. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is these production companies, who have they ever had to send a feed to? Who has been their umbrella company that they've had to go out and produce these things and then say, oh, well, now that it's done, now I got to turn around and send it to so-and-so, aka in this point, the National Soccer Network. They're not used to that. And I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I think they're just doing it because they're not educated enough to know that that's part of their process now. But that's just me. I'm trying to take the high road and say, oh, you sons of bitches, get it over there. Good dude. I don't want to do that because I don't know both sides of the story.
Yeah, let me give you a perspective just so you have it. So this one company specifically.
Now he wants me to get mad.
Yeah, on this one company on the already sent a feed to us a week and a half ago. I sent them an email saying, hey, this past week we did a game on Wednesday. I said, my thing to them was like, hey, I don't have a problem with you guys putting this stuff up on your platform after the fact, but you can't do it live. So if you want to live stream, you can only live stream to us. to our studio, and then after the fact, you can upload it to your platform so your viewers can go watch it. But we cannot compete against it. You're a network. I'm not going to compete for views with you. The team is part of this league. The league mandates this. This isn't like some kind of a choice, right? So, so that was the thing. So they had already sent us a feed. They chose this week to not. So that specific company decided just to say, screw it. We don't really care what you want, and we're not going to do it. So, and that's kind of how that led.
So are you contracted with these production companies? You're contracted with the league that's putting out
I own the rights to the WPSL and the League for Clubs. They are my rights. I own them.
No, I'm saying the production company. Like, is there any paperwork signed, contract wise, signatures, dotted lines, anything between you and these production companies you're working with, or is it specifically just through the League for Clubs and WPSL?
Yeah. So, I mean, the team is contracted. The team is contracted, the production company, not us. Now, there are some situations where we have contracted the production company to do the work for us, and in that case, it's a non-issue because we're paying them, and they're not going to send us someplace else because we're paying them. But I'm not paying these companies; they're being paid by the quote unquote team. And so, and again, if the team is like, well, screw them. I mean, and that might be the thing too, right? The team might be doing that. It's a combination of factors, I'm sure, and there's some nuances to this. I'm just saying that it's an issue that we're experiencing in real time right now across the country with production companies who just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this on the back end, and I think that partially has a lot to do with it. It might be an issue of the people in the league, the people that you deal with in terms of getting those rights and signing these contracts to be the one to cover it, maybe not communicating as well to the clubs themselves or giving them the resources or making sure that they're prepared to do what they need to do on a daily basis. So, be honest with you, I don't know what the specific answer to it is, but I think Natali does have a good point when he says that people just simply aren't used to it, and there are going to be some growing pains. There certainly has been with specific teams and specific leagues. So it's frustrating, but I guess that's just that's uniquely the soccer space right now.
I couldn't agree more. Well, hey, we're going to have some great guests joining us here. Dominic and Paulie are going to join us from GOIC Cup, and I'm going to have them explain why it's called GOIC Cup. We had a conversation back here a few months ago, and they were talking about this cup. And this cup is an unbelievable thing, by the way. And we're going to talk about kind of this new partnership as well. But it's 3v3 action, right? So, growing up, I remember there was a Thanksgiving kind of like trot 3v3 tournament here locally that we did. And there were some ones that were outdoors. And I remember that as a kid, that was an exciting thing, right? Because it's really high action, really quick. You play these short games. There's no goalies for the most part, right? Maybe you're, you kind of throw your guy back there or girl back there and kind of quickly make a save if you can to block the goal. But there's not like actual full-time goalies in these environments in most cases, right? So it's a really cool experience, really cool thing. And they're doing it and taking it on the road, right? So they had one here back in Wixom back earlier this spring. And then now they're going to be having one in Naperville, Illinois here coming up here in July. So really excited about having them on the show this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome in our special guests here this morning and do that here right now. And there is Dominic and Paulie and Paul, and welcome into Inside the Game here on this Friday morning.
Hello, how you guys doing? Thank you for having us on.
Thank you guys.
Doing well.
This is awesome.
I'm just asking right off the bat, you guys are Italian, right?
I'm Italian.
I'm Albanian.
Okay. I just heard I heard Paulie and Dominic. I felt I was getting myself involved in the
sounded like a family reunion there.
Yeah,
for a
Dominic
second.
and Paulie are coming on the show. All right.
Well, if I had said Paulie's last name, which I want to say if I can say this, obviously is it Milana or Milana? Milana. Okay, so Milana for Dominic, and then is it Ded Vukovic?
Yeah, Ded Vukovic.
Okay, so I did. Yeah. Okay, so
that would have squashed my theory if you would have said that last name. I'd be like, all right, I get it.
Well, either way, we are excited to have you here today to talk about this cup and talk about this new partnership. First and foremost, if I go to the website, I go to goiccup.com. I would imagine that there is when you guys are talking with people out in the world and talking about what this 3v3 tournament's all about, I would imagine people are like, what does GOIC stand for? Does that come up?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming you did it on purpose. I'm assuming you did this so that you could, when you have conversations, tell the stories. So I would love to know, or the audience would love to know what the story is.
Paul, I'll let you take this one off the bat.
Yeah. So before we started the soccer tournaments and potentially starting soccer leagues, we started a clothing brand back in early 2023, and it was called Chair. And we didn't really know where to take it. We recently dropped out of school, trying to start this dream in New York. And then eventually down the line, we were like, let's just throw a soccer tournament. We don't play anymore. We miss being part of the game. And that was our way to be around it. And we started just doing it with our clothing brand, right? These tournaments. And then eventually we're like, we got to split these. People are getting confused on what it is. And we're like, GOIC, we're going to call it Get Off Your Chair, the Get Off Your Chair Cup. And we thought that was really cool. It really like emphasizes people to get up, get moving, join a soccer tournament, or just like do something with their lives. So that's why it's called GOIC.
So I'm assuming you guys went to school together then? You went to college together?
We actually been from elementary all the way to college. We
Oh,
went
wow.
to school together. Yeah, we've known each other since we were like 5 years old.
So the clothing brand was the one thing that kind of took you guys away from college. That was the thing that you were pursuing when you went to, you said New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We dropped out of school in our sophomore year. I've actually never said this on air, but like I basically faked having a job in New York in New York to our parents to kind of be like, all right, we have something going on. We're not just fuck ups. And they fully believed it, but we had 1 month Airbnb, $1,000 to our name. We're like, yo, we got to figure it out. We always had like the entrepreneurial mindset, but didn't really know where to take it specifically. But having an interest in clothing in general, we were like, all right, let's start a clothing brand. So it was like 6 months into being in New York. We were working 2 jobs, just trying to make things work. And then it, in the past 2.5 years, kind of developed into this beautiful thing that we're now pursuing full time. So it's been.
So you guys have the clothing brand still?
Yeah, we have the clothing brand.
Cool. What, if you don't mind, what kind of clothing is it?
It's changed over the past few months. For probably about 1.5 years, we were doing a lot of like streetwear stuff. If you're like familiar with like Supreme or like Kith, stuff along those lines. But now we've started to integrate ourselves more into like tech wear or outdoors wear, stuff that you might see like North Face put out or Arc'teryx.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And it's Chair in New York, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So talking about this, obviously, we are obviously a soccer podcast and a soccer show on a soccer network. So, obviously,
I thought it was
talking
network.
soccer. Sorry?
That was a Target network.
Oh, yeah. Look at this.
No, that's his son. Talk to his son, Nathan.
Free promotion every single day.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the Target. It was about the fact that he did
But
not
that's
tell
how
us
the
what
whole
to go
thing
to.
started with my son. And let me tell you about the situation in Target. These goddamn production companies are like. Anyway, let's proceed.
Yeah, they're getting free promo, man.
I know.
Wow, my goodness, man. Hey, Target, want to do an ad spot? This is great. We'll just
Exactly.
Target. Yeah, I mean, okay. So, being that this is a
Back on
shopping, you know what? I mean, did you guys have your clothing in Target yet or no?
No way. Yeah, there's no way.
No.
Okay. No. All right. Well, with that, so let's talk about you mentioned you guys growing up played soccer.
Yeah.
All right. What was the highest level that you guys competed at? And did you guys have a chance to play in college?
Me personally, I only played up until I played club my whole life. I'm trying to even remember like the highest club. It was like MRL P1, something like that, but never like anything much more than that.
I played a club at Michigan State, and I was trying out the first team. Didn't make it. And then I realized, I'm not going pro. And that was like my first dream, to be a professional soccer player. And that's where we kind of got together during that summer. We're like, we got to change things up.
Yeah.
Go Sparty.
Yep.
Don't
Go green.
antagonize. No. Let's not do that here. We're not doing that here. Okay, it's not going to happen. Okay. I love the state of Michigan. Love all the schools in Michigan as a whole, but individually can't stand Michigan State. But with that being said,
Dominic and Paul, they're on this side of the state, so you can understand why they think the way they do.
It all makes sense.
No, it's all good. So okay, so you played high school, you played youth, tried out for club and whatnot. Question I have for you is this: as we talk about, and we'll dive more back into your cup here in a second, but I think it's important because we've been talking a lot about culture in this country in regards to soccer, which does kind of present itself into what you guys do as well. Because again, if you love the game and you want to get out and play it, you're going to enter yourself into a competition like this, because this isn't just for like a youth environment. This is for adults as well, right? Because when you think of 3v3 tournaments, you might not thinking it's for adults, right? A lot of these tournaments are for like those kids from like U8 to U17, U18. Maybe there's an open, but you guys offer it for adults as well, which is really, really cool. But culturally in this country right now, how do you feel like the soccer environment is from your perspective right now in this country as a whole?
I think it's becoming a lot better. Like growing up, I feel like it wasn't super popular. You're kind of seen in high school a certain way. I feel like as growing up playing soccer, you'd feel that way. But I think with introduction of, some big name players coming to MLS, I think there's been a big popularity. And it's almost like I feel like they didn't put the work in to like soccer. They saw Messi come to MLS. They saw like Sergio Busquets, all these players come. And I think it's great for the game, but there's a lot of fake fans, I feel like. There's a lot of people that are just wearing the jersey just to wear it. But anything to kind of promote the game, I think is great. So that's kind of where my mindset is with everything.
Yeah, mine's like the same way. However, soccer won't grow unless the MLS changes the rules and they introduce relegation and promotion. I don't think it'll ever be as big of a sport as Europe or even just like worldwide, South America and Asia, because it's so different and you can lose every single game and you're still a professional team. That's what kills it for me. That's why I've never even been to an MLS game personally.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you guys a question about soccer. And one thing that I always find kind of a deterrent to how it's run in this country is I think it's oversaturated, personally. I think there are so many leagues out there that when you have that pyramid, it's almost like the food pyramid. It's just so much stuff when you should only have basic things on it. And this reason I'm bringing this up is because just over this past weekend, so I sit in Indiana and we held the Indianapolis 500 and it's once a year. They crammed 350,000 people into that place. It's the largest open stadium or event arena in the world. And they crammed 350,000 people in it. You look at overseas where they have these huge stadiums where clearly the soccer is a lot different, but they're filling 60, 70,000 seat stadiums. But then when the NFL comes, this year they're going to have the most there in Europe with 7 games, but mostly it's 4 or 5 or whatever. They sell those out in a heartbeat. Why? Because it's a one-off. It's a novelty. It just comes in, people go, they get excited about it, just like the Indy 500. But here it seems that we're trying to shove so much soccer, trying to make it grow. It's like keep feeding the fire to make it hotter or anything like that. And I think it's taking away from, trying to fill these stadiums of 60, 70, 80,000 people where NFL teams play once a week. We're trying to cram 700 different leagues into a week of soccer. And it's just so sparse because if you see a game on Monday, you're probably not going to want to see a game on Saturday. Do you think that there's too much soccer trying to happen? I know we're trying to grow the game and everything like that, but do you think that trying to just flood it with as many teams and as many leagues as possible, do you think that's hurting it?
Ooh, I've never thought about it, but honestly, like I'd agree for sure. I think I do agree. Like when you have like those one-off novelties, I think it does almost more for the game than it would doing like a ton of stuff that's not cool or really something that people care about. Reminds me of like TST Cup. They're like a another like small. There are 77 tournament that they do once a year, and I think it's either North or South Carolina, but they do it once a year, and they get like celebrity players like Sergio Aguero, Nani, and they'll put together like teams, and the cash prize is $1 million. Guys and girls, and I think that is so much more impactful. The fact that it's once a year, the fact that it's a cool concept, than it would any like amount of MLS games throughout the year, at least from what my eyes and being like in the soccer space. Paul, I mean, I don't know if you'd agree with that, but I do definitely agree with you.
Yeah, and the amount of leagues too. Like my brother plays like in one of these semi-pro leagues in Michigan, and people that go to the games get confused. Like, what league is this? Like, what division? What tier? And I feel like people in America are already confused with what soccer is, and they never even heard of things like the Champions League. And so when you're incorporating all these different leagues in America, it's just more questions for people to get answered. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Not to take a sharp left NASCAR turn, kind of the way John Natale described it a little bit earlier, but I do want to talk about the formation of this cup because I find it fascinating. Because you guys talked about moving to New York with $1,000, and now we've arrived here. I feel like there's a monumentous gap in between dropping out of college to where we are now, and there's a lot that goes into that. And the concept of what you guys do, I think, is really interesting. And get off your chair. I mean, that's a really cool thing, and I think obviously more people in America could certainly afford to do that. So with that, you move to New York, you have this idea of starting a tournament like this, and obviously the clothing brand is not carrying you exclusively. Okay, you have the idea. Where did you go from there?
Ooh. So we had the idea. It actually started from a clothing drop we wanted to do, that involved like soccer. We actually went to Brazil, did a photo shoot in the favelas. It was super sick, and then we did a tournament to kind of promote the clothing drop. And the tournament ended up being more popular than the clothes itself. So we're like, oh, damn, there's something here, We never done it for the money to begin with, but we just thought it was so cool to have all these people come together in New York that care about the game. So then we partnered up with this pretty big podcast in New York called Wavy or Five-A-Side Media, and we started hosting these tournaments in New York. We probably did, Paul, what was it, like 7 or 8 in New York?
Yeah,
total. And then we decided to do like a European tour. So we actually ended up doing Glasgow, Amsterdam, and London summer of last year. And then this December, we were just in Rio, kind of like a hurrah, putting everything together. And we did a tournament in the favelas. And only as of January, actually, we really saw, okay, this is something that we should actually build a team out, put a business plan together, and actually start pitching to people, starting to raise a little bit of money to put together these proper tournaments. Because one, we saw how popular they were just on the small end of things. Because the biggest we've done previous to the one we just did was 32 teams. But we thought, hey, like I know for a fact we could easily push 80 to 100 teams with all these tournaments just based on the popularity. And if we gave ourselves a little bit more time, more structure, a little bit more money, we could do it. And that's where January came around. We gave ourselves 4 months to throw in Wixom, end up pushing, I think, 115 teams in one day. And that's kind of like the brief rundown of how it all started and kind of the mindset we took along the way.
So what is it, I guess, from your opinion, and I guess, Paul, you can chip in too, because I'm sure you guys have unique views on what it is. You talked about some of the places you've done this. Brazil, the soccer culture in Brazil is unbelievably over the top. I mean, I talk about one of my friends that's actually in the game. It plays collegiately right now. Thiago dos Santos is his name. I mean, he's shown me videos of the ultras in Brazil. And the way that they support their teams, it looks like they've spent weeks choreographing these certain things, but they haven't. I mean, they just show up early, they get it done, and it's unbelievable. So it's no question to me that you're going to have a lot of popularity in places like that, especially New York too, with the diversity. But there are other tournaments, and I'm sure there's other things that people could get involved in on a local scale. What is it about your tournament specifically that draws as many people out as you've seen since forming this originally?
I definitely think because we do such a good job in marketing, especially like the videos that we put out promoting it. Our emphasis is always content first. and then the actual like rules and the structure of the game after. Because we think, especially in this day and age, the way that short form content is, people just scroll, scroll, and scroll. No one really cares about long form or just like normal
Yep.
flyers when they see it on their Instagram screen or Facebook. So I think that's what makes us different. Um, Especially day of tournament, we made such big banners, got such like 6 trophies made. We were doing everything that we can for the kids, because if the kids think it's cool, then everyone thinks it's cool.
Right. So from a marketing perspective,
Mhm.
do you think, speaking of soccer in America, not to again take another sharp turn, because I do want to stay on talking about the tournament, because again I think it's fascinating.
Mhm.
Do you think soccer and the educational component in terms of the marketing for maybe some of these bigger leagues, do you think maybe they're lacking some of that? Because from my perspective, I think it's fascinating what you just said. And I think I'm not, I don't know how old you guys are. I think we're somewhat in the same ballpark in terms of age, but we understand uniquely exactly it is what you just said. And I think one of my biggest struggles with a lot of the places I work with sometimes is you have the old guard who doesn't really see the point in that. They're going to spend thousands of dollars on a billboard before they spend any sort of money on making social media or production value any better, which is fascinating to me.
Mhm.
But you guys have almost kind of gone all in on that, and that's what's really helped you out. What is the power of marketing in your mind? Marketing in that way.
Ooh, I mean, I think you get a bigger bang for your buck. Like thousands on a billboard is not nearly as
Ain't gonna do much.
yeah, not gonna
Yeah.
do much. Where it's like everyone's on their phone. Especially
Yeah.
as young, like I grew up like on my phone. I assume a lot of like people around our age have, and I think it's just the power of influencers in general. Like, and they're much more influential than I say. Like even like people in political power, people that are like, and if you look, see it, like a lot of like businesses now, like Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg is super involved in like the social media aspect of things now. He's like, I guess they call it like founder led marketing. And I think it's the marketing in general is just taking a turn. I think it's like Paul was saying, short form is king. And the influencers now, like even got Prime Energy, like KSI and Logan Paul, big influencers. But I mean, they're the reason why this company is doing billions of dollars. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more of this. I think influencers in the next 10 years are going to be the next wave of billionaires. So yeah.
So would you say in a way you've kind of modeled the way you promote this tournament off of what you've seen from them?
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you say the most popular place has been for your tournament specifically in terms of turnout?
What do you think, Paul? I don't know.
Michigan was the biggest that we had
Really?
open, because we were allowing like over 100 teams. But like
Wow.
just soccer favorites, Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
Yeah, I mean,
mini
I
Neymar
assume.
everywhere.
Right.
Crazy.
I don't know if you knew this or not, but my wife is originally from Brazil and Sao Paulo. So where was it? Was it in Rio? You guys did the tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But yep, originally from Sao Paulo, and we mentioned favelas. I think she immediately jumped out of her seat. It was like, hey, not that she lived in the favelas, but she's obviously very the culture, all that kind of stuff. My in-laws, all my family extended family are from Brazil, so it's pretty cool to be able to hear that from you guys taking your tournament, into Brazil. It's really cool. So I want to talk about for a second and take a step back and talk about what led us to have a conversation here a few months back. And because we've had some conversations, and we'll talk about kind of what those conversations led to. But you guys picked up the phone and called Henry Steinwasser here locally, because that was one of your coaches, right? When you guys played soccer for the Nationals at that time, I think it was part of Union. And so the merger, I don't think it actually happened quite yet, or if it did, it was maybe really kind of beginning stages of that merger. But talk about that for a second. What led us to maybe come together?
Yeah. Shout out Henry Steinwasser to begin with. He's my favorite coach ever. The guy's awesome. I had him for years. But yeah, we actually what did we talked to Henry about something different before we got introduced to this, right, Paul? What was it? I don't even remember what that was for.
I remember we were in Chicago filming, and then the Michigan soccer tournament was coming up pretty soon. And we're like, all right, we need to get some more teams. So that's why we called Henry. We're like, we wanted to pitch the Nationals at first to see if they could do like a blast. But then Henry connected us to you, and that's when we called you.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, this is the guy you got to talk to regarding soccer, youth soccer or soccer in general. I'm like, all right, we're going to call John up, see what happens. And then it's funny how it went from that to what it's becoming now, where like we're going to be like collaborating together in these tournaments coming up and going to like Naperville, which is like super random, but like what a cool story that this is kind of formed into from like a phone call to this now.
You know what's kind of interesting, at least looking at you guys. I am from the baseball atmosphere. Okay, so I kind of came up in that game. Do minor league baseball actively, work with one of the Tigers affiliates on the TV and radio broadcast. And what's interesting to me, baseball always had this issue because of how old it is and how long it's been around in the States, is that everybody got into this mindset of it's such a beautiful, pure game. We really shouldn't touch it. We really shouldn't do anything with it. Let's keep it the way that it is. And then we got into kind of our generation and maybe a generation younger than us. And they started to go, well, this game's boring. I don't really like this. You know what I mean? Popularity started to drop off. Maybe not as many people were coming out to games. And so there were some, I guess, rogue owners that kind of took it on themselves to, hey, let's create almost more of an entertainment-based product than a sport-based product. You look at the summer collegiate leagues. It's amazing some of the promos they do. I mean, they really toe the line with the things that they do. And then you look at someone like the Savannah Bananas. Guys, they don't go to see the baseball. Okay, let's just admit this. They don't sell out MLB stadiums because people want to go see baseball being played. They go to these games because they want to be entertained, because there's something unique about the energy that's created in that place. What you guys are doing, to me, I think in some way kind of resembles that a little bit, because you're creating a fun tournament that is free flowing, that people can come out, they can create their own teams with their friends. There's activities, there's different things going on. From your perspective, was that kind of center of mind when you created this, is, hey, this is almost going to be as much an entertainment-based product, kind of a big party, if you will, and there's also soccer being played at the same time? Because to me, I can picture where that would actually draw a lot of people to wanting to be a part of this.
At first, I think we started to get little kids more exposure to different scouts, MLS academies, and like colleges. But after the Michigan one, we were looking at online and we ran into other accounts in the UK. They do like crazy 1v1 matches, and the media that they do is just so sick. It's people getting megged, like people just losing their minds. And then that's just their own way of promoting the game in England. Then we were thinking we should go a route where we get to promote the game in a way that we think it should get promoted, not the way that these other companies are making it look boring and very static and very like, yeah, soccer is like great. We want to make it like look cool, because our whole thing growing up is like soccer was never cool. Soccer was like, always like a girl sport, and like football, baseball were always like the manly sports. But I think in this day and age, with like Messi comes to the MLS, Speed, he's a streamer that's going like global, representing soccer.
Maniac.
Yeah. We just want to take things into our hands and do media in a way that we think is going to blow up the game, and that's just going to make it look great for future generations.
Yeah.
How much do you guys believe when you look at the tier system of here in the States? We always talk about how soccer's played abroad or in places like South America and everything like that. But here, that's really all we can focus on. It's never going to be the worldwide phenomenon that it is outside here. It is the most popular sport in the world, but it is not here in the United States. What you guys are doing, and this is kind of piggybacking off when Nate said, well, like the entertainment value and anything like that. But with having a 3v3 tournament, how much do you guys believe that the pace and the speed of what these teams are playing at affects the popularity of where it's going with you. You look at games like indoor football, 7-on-7, very fast, 50-yard fields. It's fun. Indoor soccer, when it was a thing back in the day, how popular that was. You look at football, it's something happening every, they have 30 seconds in between, but it's constant. There's a goal in football. You don't have to score a touchdown in order to make a great play. You can make a diving first down on the, at the sideline, tiptoe it in and get a first down, and it's good. Baseball is a slow sport, but you can get a base hit. You can advance runners. You can see a stolen base. Soccer is a 90-minute game that how much action truly happens to where it matters. Unless you have an 8-8 shootout, that's one thing, but it's, a 3-1. You go in 90 minutes of a lot of passing, a lot of possession, everything like that until they get into attacking third. You guys, 3v3 is bam, bam. I mean, it's consistent pushing out. How much do you think the speed affects what you guys are doing and the popularity of it?
Now you can go if you want.
No, go ahead.
I think it's awesome. I think it's so fast. Also, seeing players play in such tight spaces, you really see the creativity that they have. When we saw it in Brazil, that's when we want to fully bring it to the U.S. because we were also doing 5v5s in New York. But the way those kids were moving with the ball and it was so flary, and I feel like that's what a lot of the game is missing nowadays, especially in the pros. Like when people say Pep is ruining football because he's making players that used to be so flary and so open and free flowing, like a robotic player, like Jack Grealish, or just how everyone loves Lamine Yamal these days because he gets the ball and he's gonna go dribble 3 players. People love seeing that. It's so entertaining, and we're past the Ronaldinhos, Roberto Carlos, even Ronaldo at Manchester United. Those players don't really exist anymore. So when people have a chance to show how creative they are, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the flair is what I fell in love with when I originally started watching soccer and watching Messi highlights when I was 8 years old. I was like, yo, this is insane. And the game definitely has been missing that for probably since Neymar was coming up, to be honest. It was last time I saw a player. And now we got a few. Lamine Yamal, watching him play, it's I'm a Barca fan myself. So when I'm seeing this guy play, there's tears that run down my face. But yeah, I think the game that we're trying to push is a lot more flair to it. Actually, at our next tournament, we're actually gonna be pushing towards we want to push towards different rule changes where we want to award people for actually doing skill moves. We might have some ideas we're throwing around is skill of the day. So at the tournament, if you perform this skill and it works, then the ref will award that team a point. And I think that's the biggest thing is we want to award kids and award players for being creative and not being the systematic play, which is being pushed from the youth level onward.
And I find that absolutely fascinating. And I think it's great that you brought it up. When you look at a lot of the players that are coming from, these soccer hotbeds, whether it be Argentina, whether it be Brazil, whether it be any of these other places, the individual expression in their games is what makes them so exceptional to watch. It's their skill with the ball on their foot. And really what it comes down to, and I've learned this from watching it, I've learned this from conversations being in the soccer sphere, is that it comes down to it. You got to beat the man in front of you. That's what this game is all about. I mean, yeah, there's build up, there's systematic ways of going about it, but when it comes down to it, you got 1 or 2 guys in front of you. How do you beat them? And I think when you look at players from those different parts of the world, they are so individually creative and they have their own brand and their own way of playing that when you put that all together, it's like a tapestry, the way it comes together. It's fascinating to watch. Whereas you come over here to the United States and you guys talked about how systematic it is and how A, B, C, D, and we're going to do it all this way. Do you see the skill level difference if you were to take the youth maybe in a place like Brazil between what they're doing there and maybe what they're doing here in the United States? Is it that steep of a drop off in your mind?
I don't think it's as big as it was when we were growing up. I honestly think the youth game in America is a lot better. So Paul's brother is a pretty good footballer himself. And he's 17 now?
18.
18. He's playing in some of the academies in Europe. And I've seen him kind of grow up through the game. And I think he's like one of those kind of flair type players as well. I think you're seeing more and more of it. I think that's because of social media, to be fair. I think kids from a younger age are now having access to like TikTok and Instagram, and they get to see players like Lamine Yamal. They get to see players like Ney when they're growing up from a very young age. I think it inspires them. Kills it is like the coaches at these youth teams. I remember even me, like I was never no skiller, but I was one that, I would want to do things, but I was always told by a lot of my coaches, like, play it simple, play it simple, play it simple.
Yeah.
Which I get at a high level, that's how you win games. But, what we saw in Brazil from a super young age is that these kids are trying to meg each other. They're great with the ball. And I'm sure there's other factors to play along into that, but there is a difference, but I think we're slowly but surely closing that gap.
You think coaches here in the U.S. maybe try to tamper down on individual expression a lot more than maybe other places?
1,000,000%. Yeah. I definitely think so. I think they're trying to be Europe so bad, and they think that,
Yeah.
Where I feel like, I don't know, the Brazil is they're such a great footballing country because of that, like that thing about them where a lot of them were flair players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made them so great for so many years. And you saw right when they started to kill that in the Brazilian national team, they're not even the top 10 in the world. These guys used to be in World Cup finals, semifinals, and now you barely see them making out of the group stage. So I think that like U.S. finding that like individual style that works, that players are kind of like pushing towards, I think would be great. And hopefully that would be them trying to make players rainbow flick. That would be awesome, but I doubt it's going to happen.
Do you find that the world we live in today is everything is about, quick turnaround. It's about speed. Even your restaurants now, everything's fast casual. The fine dining or that longer, that experience is gone, right? For the most part, people want to go get their food in 12 seconds and scarf it down in 6. So the whole world has changed. And obviously 3v3 compared to our normal soccer game, right, is significantly shorter. A lot more pace, a lot more action happening in that short amount of time. So if you look at it from that standpoint, does this hurt the game by going shorter like this? Does it help the game? What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, it's about excitement, but because I was talking to my wife about the Major Arena Soccer League and how the indoor soccer environment here professionally is really, really cool. They don't have that over in Brazil. They don't have like this massive indoor league like they do here in the U.S. And does it help the game, or does it maybe hurt it because you're giving it like a different look and feel, right? Does it, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I think it helps it because if you're a great player when spaces are tight, then you're even better player when you have more room at 11v11 field.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's kind of like when Neymar was coming up, all they played was futsal. Or like you're playing on the streets in the side of an alleyway with your buddies with a makeshift goal. I think that's what we're sort of creating, kind of like that grassroots feel of like developing your soccer game. And I think that can only make it better on a bigger field.
I'd love to get all 4 of your thoughts on this because growing up, and you guys have mentioned it about how, Paulie, you did with how football and basketball and baseball were the sexy sports, right? But at the same token, you look at football and you look at basketball, those and baseball, those are probably the top 3. Hockey as well. Why is it that soccer, where all you need is a ball, that's it? I mean, you can go anywhere to play soccer. You can play in your backyard. You just mentioned you can play on a street corner. You can play in an open field. You can go anywhere and just play with the ball. Buy a $14 ball at Meijer and you're good to go with all your buddies. You can get everybody involved in that. With baseball, Nate, you know this, the exorbitant amount of money that these youth players have to spend for baseball. Not just for paying for the team that they're playing for, but the equipment. Bats are $400-$500 now just for a bat. And football's the same way. Basketball, probably a little different, but you're subject to basketball. Just you have to find a court. And sometimes that's a limited resource for you. Why is it that with how simple soccer is, when we look at the internationally, especially Brazil, these kids are playing on dirt. They're playing in alleyways and everything, but they have a ball. Why are we not adapting that here? Do you guys have a reason to explain that, of just how cheap we're so also frugal with our money. Why are we not playing the sport that costs the less?
It's a good question. I mean, the way my first thought was just like infrastructure. Like if you go to New York, for example, you're not seeing soccer courts, you're seeing basketball courts. I feel like, especially where I grew up in Michigan, like there's grass. So I was playing a lot, but like there's not soccer fields, and I think that does make a big difference. I think if there was more fields just being built in parks, in cities like New York, I think there'd be a lot more people playing and a lot more kids being like introduced to the game at a young age. Yeah, that's my take on that.
So do you think that it's, again, going back to just seeing that if you want to play soccer, that, okay, there's a field, we can go play soccer, not I'm in my backyard, the back fence, the gate is the goal, we have to hit that. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with that. Like you really, in order to practice and or play, you really don't need something. You can create anything. The goal is between the trees. Mrs. Doubtfire, when she's playing soccer with Chris, the goal was probably way before your guys' time, but the goal is in between the two trees. And, so I guess that's my point of that is, which is where you can set up a field or soccer imagination or everything. Going back to basketball, you have to have some sort of 10-foot hoop of something to do that. You have to have a court. You can't play basketball on a dirt patch in your backyard with no hoop. I mean, you can dribble, you can work on your dribbling skills, but you're not actually playing basketball. I guess that's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Is the simplicity of where you can actually set up a soccer type environment and why kids now are not taking advantage of that.
Got you. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I think when it's like the culture of the US, like, I think people naturally, like, growing up, I mean, like, you mostly get introduced to the sport by, I feel like, the people around you, either it's like your parents or maybe like I got introduced to it because my neighbor, like a few doors down, played soccer, and I was like, yo, he looks so cool, like I want to play. But his parents are off the boat from Italy, so it made sense why he was playing soccer. But if that wasn't the case, I probably would have never played potentially, because my parents didn't play. My dad's like, he's like, he thinks sports are stupid in general. So I probably never even played a sport. But because of my neighbor, just seeing that, that's why I personally wanted to play. But I think as the game starts to get more popular, like I'm making sure my kids play soccer. That's for sure. There's no other option. So I think as the sports gets more popular and the parents start teaching the kids, start to fall in love in the game, they're just gonna pass it on and pass it on and pass it on.
I gotta say this. So are we at the point now in our kind of social construct, or however you want to put it, where we can stop saying off the boat and on the plane? Or like, are we there? Are we there? I mean, like, like get off the boat. I mean, I don't know if they took the US, whatever boat.
No, because my unfortunately my father's father, Sam, he came literally on the boat. I never met him. He unfortunately passed away. My father was only 10, so I never got to meet my grandpa Sam, but he literally came over on the boat.
Okay.
So just keep sending him over. That it's so much better. Like, yeah, I took the Emirates. No, you came on a boat, rowboat.
I wanted to fit one last one in here with you guys. And I love getting the opportunity to talk about this cup, and it really circles around accessibility. And I think that was something that Natalie was trying to get through to you guys on. And the one thing, and you referenced baseball, John, Natalie. Yes, a lot of American players have to spend a lot of money, and it's one of the reasons why. And obviously, we have Negro League Appreciation Night once a year. And the one thing we always bring up is, there's not as much Black representation in baseball, but a lot of like disenfranchised, maybe lower on the economic scale. A lot of those communities don't have a lot of players that they produce in the game of baseball because of how expensive it is. It's not because they don't want to play it. right? But then all of a sudden you look across at Colombia, you look at Venezuela, you look at Cuba, and these kids grow up with a stick and a ball, and it's a lifestyle, right, from when they start playing. And we always joke in the Tigers minor league system, the lowest level in our tier is Lakeland, Florida. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Lakeland, Florida before. It's a retirement community. It's hot as hell. No one wants to come see the games. Okay, they call it dress like a chair night whenever they play, because there's probably 10 people in the stands and it's just filled with seats. All right, but these kids from Colombia and all these other places are like, it's fine. This is like 100% better than wherever I came from. Like, yeah, we call it the backfields here in America, but this is great, compared to where they came. And it's because of the accessibility of the game itself. It is a lifestyle. It's almost a necessity thing, and I do see that, but they don't have to spend an exorbitant amount of money in order to do it. It is just a lifestyle. It's interwoven into the society itself, and I think a lot of it is because they play it all day, every day, whether that's in an official capacity or another capacity. Tournaments like yours, where it is accessible, where it is possible for people to just come out and play with their friends, and they don't have to go through this big, long process in order to be seen. Do you think that's the key in order to kind of turning the tide of culture around the game of soccer in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when you talk about necessity too, I think you got on the money, because people from those kind of communities, sports everything. Sports their way out.
Yep.
And especially like in America, it's pay to play unless you play for MLS Academy. But how many MLS Academies are really even out there? I don't even know how many MLS teams there are. Maybe like 30.
I think so.
Yeah.
For
and like
sure.
in Europe, it's once you're on your academy, you don't pay anything. And there's how many leagues, how many different divisions. And I think that's what's great about our tournament is you pay one flat fee, you get as many of your closest buddies together, or like people you just always wanted to play with. And it's a 1 to 2 day tournament. You have a great time, and hopefully you win the trophy.
JT and Nate, you wanna get together and see what the legs still look like?
No.
For us?
Yeah.
No, I tweaked my knee walking down the stairs yesterday. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, but I'll come watch for sure.
Well, speaking of watching, and this is great. It's a great segue into our partnership and what our partnership is. So we can sit here today on this show this morning talking about what the coverage will look like for the GOYC Cup. Get out of your chair, get off your chair cup here. I promise you, I'll probably be in a chair during this event, but so I won't be getting off of that chair, but I'll be in that chair. But regardless, we will be bringing this tournament live on the National Soccer Network here in July. We will have all-day coverage, including the finals of that tournament here coming up in July in Naperville, Illinois. We are going to go full stop on this one. We're going to blast with it, right? So we're going to give this thing the notoriety and the attention it deserves, and hopefully help launch this thing into the stratosphere so everybody wants to be a part of it across the country. So we are super excited about that, and it's a great partnership, and it's something in which we are really, really looking forward to.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you guys on board. This will be awesome.
Yeah, you guys make sure you share information with all of us, because even though we have our social media channels via the National Soccer, we have our individual ones. Mm-hmm. And we know that I'm pretty sure I'll be a part of it. I'm sure Nate will be a part of it too. So, send your information along to us as well, so we can post it on our individual pages and really make this thing go. I'll be the closest to you. I'm in Indianapolis, so I have, who knows, maybe I'll show up on site and, we can do something with that, maybe just like an MC type thing and promote you guys through an MC type thing, whatever we can do to help out. It's exciting. When JT told us that you guys were coming on and told us about the whole cup and everything, Nate and I are like, oh my God. So we're really looking forward to it. And it's awesome what you guys are doing, growing the sport and doing it in such a unique way is really cool. So congrats on that.
Appreciate it so much. Yeah.
And so the audience does know, because we haven't obviously gone through the details of this, we will be on site in Naperville, Illinois. We will be there with our team to provide the necessary, coverage and be on site. I've even talked about wearing like a cool, colored tuxedo like thing. We talked about, having some fun with it. So, but yeah, we're really super excited about this. So, but the episode number 95 is officially in the books. That is again 5 episodes away from 100. It's so hard to think that we've gone 95 episodes. And to be fair, my math may or may not be off, but we're not going to talk about that. So I mean, I might have lost count of a show or two somewhere in the mix. So we're not going to have an official audit of the exact number. We are at 100 here next week, people.
Oh yeah, a week from today will be 100.
Yes. Yeah,
Holy hell!
Next
Wow.
Friday, unless I take a day off, we take a day off or something like that, But yeah, next Friday is the day.
Buckle up.
Is that right?
Congrats, guys.
Yeah, we're excited. We had Alexi Lawless here this week. We had the No Business Soccer podcast on here yesterday. So
Tim Sinclair.
Yep, we've had Tim Sinclair from Chicago, and he's the voice of many Chicago.
Oh, there you go. I can get old Timmy to come down.
That would be cool. Okay.
You know who Tim Sinclair is?
I'm not familiar. I won't lie.
He is the PA announcer for the Bears, Bulls, Chicago Fire.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, good friend of mine. He does a lot of work with Illinois, so he's in that area, and I'm sure he could come down. And if you guys need a PA announcer or someone, an MC, let me talk to Tim. Seriously, I can set that up for you guys. I mean, he does White Sox stuff too. He's the guy. He's done NBA All-Star games. He was the voice of the bubble when that happened. So yeah. And he's up in Chicago, and I know him quite well. So that could do some stuff for you guys.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
That'd be really cool.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, better him than Dom.
Well, that is a wrap here on episode 95.
You talk so slow.
I know. I'm afraid it's going to do it. It did not do it, I don't think. But then again, I have never seen it happen.
No.
So.
Perfect.
But either way, episode 95 in the books. First time stopping by, hit subscribe, like us, share this with your friends and family. We'll be back here same time, same place on Monday, right here on Inside.
Thank you for having us, guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
You guys have been awesome.